How am I gonna open this now that I got the gloves on my hands? Oh, I know! Alright guys, welcome back. I'm Austin, this is Gaming as Adults, and as you can see, we have a whole plethora of mess right in front of us. And the reason for that is because today we're gonna be cooking with fire. I'm sorry, it's my new fine toy, and there's nobody in the world that can tell me that this noisy tank of combustible gas that can easily light my house on fire is not the most fun toy that I've ever seen in the world. I'm sure they get more fun, like hydraulic presses. Oh, that's cool. But this is the most fun one that I own right now. So, why do we have it? We have it because we need to construct an aluminum frame. We need to construct an aluminum frame for a mining rig. So if you guys don't know, if you jump online right now and you go to places like Newegg or Amazon or even places like AliExpress, you can usually find mining rigs that can house about 4 to 8 GPUs. However, the problem is that they're not really in abundance. You see, about like 3 years ago, they used to be like really in abundance because there was a bunch of miners and a bunch of people that just wanted something that was mass-produced, quick and easy, and then Bitcoin dropped. It dropped something like $4,000 in 2 hours. That's a lot of money to lose really quickly. So a lot of people just cut their losses and they sold all their stuff, to include people building the equipment to build the rigs themselves, like the frames. So it's very difficult to find a frame online anymore that is less than like $200 or $300. I mean, like $200. That's the cost of my case right now. So we're gonna build one. In addition to that, I need to learn how to braise because there's other rigs that we want to build in the future that involve braising. But before any of that, we need to get measurements because this isn't your mother's mining rig. No, no, no. This is something different. So come on with me. Okay, well, I had to move a bunch of stuff to make it look less cluttered. But this is one of the reasons why we have to build this as opposed to just buying one, because it's very easy to go out and just buy a $200 or $300 mining rig, but you lose upgradability and customizability and a lot of ability. This is going to be the receptacle for where the mining rig is going to sit. And the reason for this is a very different mining rig. Most mining rigs work on air. You leave the coolers on them, you just drop the fan speed down, and you just let it go. Sometimes people will get crappy water blocks, and they'll put the water blocks on there, but this is going to be something a little bit different. I'm after peak longevity of these cards. I want to be able to resell them with the most of their life out of them. Because something that I learned from the previous mining rig is when you run things just as hot as they will go, they don't necessarily perform as well. They don't last as long. Not necessarily that the coolers go out or the fans go out or anything like that. They just don't last as long. So we need to figure out how much displacement all of the components will have. See, here's the plan. I'm going to take all the cards and strip off the coolers till it's just a bare PCB. And then I've got a fluid that I can submerge them all into in this vat. And we're going to water cool them by fully submerging the cards into the vat of fluid. And I know a lot of you out there are already yelling at me, but that is the plan. But I need to know how much fluid I need to get. So, away with the math and displacement we go. Alright, so guys, I started doing the math, and it seemed funny to me, and really messed up. I came out with, so I did the dimensions on the inside, but I don't know if you guys can see into this. This isn't a perfect square. This is it's got like bulges and presses and all sorts of stuff, so I just did rough estimates of if it were a perfect square. and it's not. And I came out with a number of 48.6 liters. I was like, that seems really, really high, given that I don't plan on filling up this whole thing. All right, I really only plan to fill it about like maybe 6, maybe 8 inches deep. And so, then I got to thinking about it. I was like, how much can this thing hold if I were to just fill it up? And wouldn't you know, it says it on the label, and that's 94.6. The math was easier all along. I just needed to do the little fraction cross multiplication. That's what I needed to do. So, as it turns out, it's closer to 40 liters, which is perfect. That means I just need to get 2 orders of my fluid. And now I know. Now we get to go build things. Now that the boring math stuff is over. Silly math. Do you have any idea how difficult it is to do math like this? Like, I haven't done this math since I was a freshman in high school. That's like 10 years ago. Alright guys, back to the fun part. I need to learn how to braise. So here's the reason why we're braising. Most people are like, why don't you just, screw it or weld it or rivet it? Riveting is awesome if you have a pneumatic rivet gun. I do not have an air compressor for that. I have a 1-gallon air compressor, and it may work, but damn, that thing's gonna be going off all day. And the actual gun itself is not really cheap. And I could get one of the hand crank ones, but when you talk about something like this, where I've got to put in, 30, 40 rivets, dude, my hand's going to be raw, And then, all right, so you want to talk about welding. Well, there's a trade-off with welding, too. If I choose to weld, then I either need to spend roughly $1,500 to $2,000 for a TIG welder because I'm using aluminum, or I need to sacrifice the weight and use steel. And that's without even talking about gases or what have not. And I have never worked in any of this stuff. So there's that. I am familiar, though, with soldering. And somebody gave me a tip. They said, why don't you just braise it? They said, you can braise metals together. You can braise different kinds of metals. You can even braise glass to metal. And I said, that's really interesting. So I started looking into it. And so what we have here is MAP gas. I have no idea what this actually means, but I do know that MAP burns hotter than propane. And for that reason, it's better for braising because it can get hotter and you use less gas, I guess. I don't know. I know that there's MAP plus oxygen. Oxygen makes it burn hotter. I'm learning. I also know that in order to braise, if you've ever seen anybody work on a lathe or a mill or something like that, the first thing that they will always do is they'll do what's called facing it, which is where they take off the aluminum oxide layer, which is this dingy sort of metal look. And I know that you cannot braise if you've got that aluminum oxide layer. So that's probably the first thing. That's why I've got wire brush, I've got sandpaper, and yeah. A lot of people in the comments are probably going to tell me that I shouldn't be doing this inside. Thank you. I know. Anyways, I've also got some of these scrap pieces of metal. This was labeled as aluminum. Obviously it's not, though, because it's rusting, so maybe it's an aluminum alloy? I don't know. We'll give it a shot and see what happens. This is all for funsies and practice. Nothing actually matters here. Expect this to be a long series. Oh yeah, and then the last thing I found out there's this thing called a soapstone, and this thing is used as like a marker on metal. And so you can just kind of take this and be like, pa-chow, It's kind of cool because you can mess up a lot of measurements, and yeah, you can just kind of rub it off, and then you can just make a new mark if you wanted to do such. So, I got my gloves. I've got a flame-ish retardant blanket. It's heat resistant, not really flame retardant. So I'm going to use this, lay it down on the table to keep my table from lighting on fire. Let's get a strip off this aluminum angle iron. Let's get to work. As it turns out, the towel didn't work very well, so we're just gonna beat the fuck out of the table. I'm sorry, there's children that watch this show. We're still gonna beat the fuck out of the table. Guys, so what I did is I took the steel brush. I think steel works best on the aluminum. All I did was I just scrubbed it real good with the steel brush in order to remove some of the aluminum oxide layer. The aluminum oxide layer is this protective layer that happens, you know how iron or steel will rust? Well, that is an iron oxide layer. Aluminum has something similar to that, except aluminum does not rust. It doesn't corrode like that. When it creates that exterior layer of oxidization, aluminum oxide, it's a protective layer that keeps the elements out. Unless you rub it off, then it won't create that layer again. In this instance, though, you cannot braise without that layer being removed, because you need to add more material. So, this is where we're at. I've rigged them up, and I'm just trying to do a little, 90-degree angle. It's nothing fancy, nothing special, just a 90-degree angle. So let's get to it. Alright guys, well, you guys know how everything interesting always happens like off camera? That's just kind of the curse around here. Well, this was in two pieces, or actually, I'm sorry, this was in one piece, but then it became two pieces because I decided that I was going to touch it. And so I learned some things. If you heat up the joint too much, then it will start to flow underneath in the crevices that you cannot see, which is good. But if you heat it up a little bit past that, then it loosens everything and it all comes apart. And then you get one piece that turns into two pieces and a mess. So this is kind of interesting. So you can see here where it was. Yeah. And it was pretty solid, but now it's not. And then it dropped, and then I got this. That's actually kind of cool. This was just a splatter of the rod that just came out, So, but it's not so bad because you can just take the file like this and you just go like bam, 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 you can just pick it up, except for that burn mark on the floor. That definitely didn't happen. It definitely was not a product of being unsafe. Or this burn mark, which definitely did not come from my glove. Definitely not. Or that burn mark, which definitely did not come from hastiness on my part. Lessons to be learned. Braising. You do not need to heat the metal. It is entirely about heating up the braising rod on the material, and so long as there is flux in the rod itself, you just kind of heat it up, and then you heat it up a little more in order to get into crevices and what have not. You just need to put the material down, that way you can get underneath, and that's how you get things that look so clean. So now I know. And now I have a question. Can I reuse this? finished it, and this is probably the ugliest joint ever. But that will happen when you pick something up like this for the first time ever. But I'm not really concerned about aesthetics. I am kind of concerned about function. And let me tell you, as a practice, this thing is. Did you see that? Before the joint. Oh man, it's twisted now. I mean, this is just practice. It serves no function. But yeah, braising. This is awesome. This is really cheap. Those rods were like what, less than $5. The map gas itself is like $10. This whole kit that we got with the nozzle and self starter, all that stuff, that was like $30. And this is good. I found out what my deficiency is though. The problem was I was getting way too close with the flame, so everything was getting too hot before it could really get into the area of effect. So if you back it up, then you can heat up the area just a little bit. It doesn't need to be like boiling point, which is what happened here. And then you can just take the rod and just like draw on it, and that's pretty much good. And like I didn't even finish this backside. This isn't even touched, and back here I only got like a little bit. So really, it's strong.
I bet that melted point's gonna snap before the joint does.
Probably. And this is twisted, so but that joint is not budging. I'm very impressed. If you guys are interested in any of our social media, go ahead, head down to the video description down below. If you like this video, I guess leave a thumbs up, leave a comment, tell me what you think, tell me what I'm doing wrong. Next time, maybe we'll do the rest of the case, rig it all up. A ring ding ding da ding da ding ding ding. I'm super excited. This was a lot of fun. I get to play with fire and solder big punks of metal together and accidentally burn myself all day. Oh, so much fun. We'll catch you guys in the next one.